President Muhammadu Buhari at Jamena Security Summit calls for collective action in stamping out the remnants of the terrorist elements from the region. The academic community challenged on democratic governance in the country, and the media partners on malnutrition advocacy against reports of 17.6 million children in sub-Saharan Africa who suffer from acute malnutrition. These and more on today's Panorama. You're welcome. I am Fatima Umar Buba. President Muhammadu Buhari has made a strong representation for bilateral and multilateral platforms of engagement as well as collective action by member countries of the Chad Basin Commission towards stamping out the remnants of the terrorist elements from the region. The president made the request while addressing an extraordinary summit of the heads of state and governments of the Chad Basin on security convened by Nigeria in Jamena, Chad. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the report that the summit was attended by the president of Nigeria, Chad and Niger, as well as the Prime Minister of Cameroon.
Nigeria and the neighboring countries of the Chad Basin were recently hit by increasing attacks, particularly on military formations by the Boko Haram elements, as well as the renewed kidnapping of people for ransom. Such activities, President Muhammadu Buhari said, are aimed at weakening the collective resolve by member countries to completely eradicate them from the region. This extraordinary summit of the country's leadership in Jamena, Chad was convened by the Nigerian leader to reassess the situation as well as collective efforts in the task of finding lasting solutions. He told the leaders that the renewed strategy of increased mining of the general area by the insurgents as well as the deployment of unmanned aerial vehicles for surveillance activities have proved to be critical factors in the resurgence of attacks. This seemingly progressive acquisition of assault capabilities by the remnants of an already degraded sect, the president said, is worrisome. We must not cave in, he however emphasized at the closed-door meeting, saying efforts must be intensified towards ensuring that the enemies of the region do not succeed in their quest to destabilize the area. President Buhari called for the reinvigoration of collective will and commitment by member countries towards the complete eradication and decimation of the remnant elements so as to ensure peace, stability and sustainable development. While noting that the twin problems of poverty and the continued shrinkage of Lake Chad have rendered the people vulnerable to terrorist activities, the Nigerian leader stressed the urgent need for concerted efforts towards recharging the lake. He restated Nigeria's commitment towards actualizing the interbasin water transfer project so as to unlock the economic potentials of the region and provide solutions to the myriad of interrelated challenges. His administration, he also said, is committed to providing the required leadership and direction for the actualization of the peace project, as well as adequate political support in the renewed fight against Boko Haram and other forms of criminality in the region.
The heads of state and government also expressed deep concern with regards to the upsurge of attacks against the various countries and expressed the crucial need to change their modus operandi in the fight against Boko Haram. In this regard, the leaders took a number of decisions which included operational cooperation. In this context, they appealed to the international community to support their efforts in the fight against terrorism in the region and in the stabilization and sustainable development of the sub-region. They also agreed to hold regular consultations among themselves.
To the gallant troops ensuring the safety and stability of the region despite all odds, participants at the summit say their welfare is and will continue to remain top priority. From N'Djamena, Chad, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has condoled with the government and people of Rivers State and families of those that died at a building collapse. The president, in a statement signed by the special advisor on media, Femi Adesina, prayed for the recuperation of those that sustained injuries in the incident. President Muhammadu Buhari commended Rivers State government for the urgent steps taken to unravel the cause of the accident and the prompt provision of health care for victims. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bas Mustafa, has advocated more participation of the academic community in democratic governance in Nigeria. The SGF stated this while delivering a paper entitled "The Role of the Academia in Consolidating Nigeria Democracy" at the Distinguished Personality Lecture of the Department of History and International Studies of the Babcock University, Ileshan Remo, Ogun State. Shegun Lawole reports.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Bas Mustafa, will observe that government alone cannot solve all the problems of the society, challenge the academia to get more actively involved in the democratic process and not be contented with serving as returning officers during elections. The SGF specifically tasked academic institutions in the country to continually appraise the policies and programs of government at all levels and offer constructive criticisms when necessary for the entrenchment of good governance and democratic ideals.
If there's anything we need in this country today, at all levels of government, starting with the most minute, which is the local government system, is to make sure that we deepen the core values of good governance, without which we will continue to have the kind of rot that exists.
The Ogun State Governor, Senator Ibikule Amosun, represented by the Secretary to the State Government, Taiwo Adeolua, said that his administration will continue to partner tertiary institutions in the state to ensure that the outcome of their research is enjoyed by all and sundry. He commended the organizers for the initiative, noting that the title was apt, coming at the time the country was preparing for the 2019 general elections. In Abeokuta, Shegun Lawole, NTA News.
And the severity of malnutrition and its effect on child development, as well as prevention and treatment, have become a source of concern. This is what the International Society of Media in Public Health has brought to the fore. Chidima Idibisi tells us more.
Malnutrition is a major contributor to infant and maternal mortality, including poor cognitive development of children in Nigeria. At the last count, about 2.5 million under 5 children, especially those in the northeast, are said to suffer from severe acute malnutrition on an annual basis. Moved by these indices, the International Society of Media in Public Health, ISMPH, is partnering the media, regarded as policymakers' influencer and a tool for accelerating healthcare delivery and information to push advocacy on malnutrition.
Help mothers know what to do. Exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, and when weaning the child, the kind of food that the baby would need so that that baby will not be stunted.
It's not just focusing on immunization or maternal and child health. What about the nutrition of our children? That should always be at the back of the mind of the policymakers.
A project the media is committing to drive even at the grassroots.
The media, as the fourth state of the realm, must rise up to the occasion to hold our leaders accountable to prioritize and mainstream child nutrition by providing adequate funding through appropriate budget allocation.
With 60% of children in Kebbi State suffering from stunted growth due to malnutrition, the state launched a sustainable intervention and is now telling its story.
We have vegetables, we have fruits, which contain all the nutrients that our children need to take to be healthy and well nourished. We just need to prepare it in the right form.
ISMPH plans to kick off this advocacy in 9 states. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndubisi, NTA News.
And to discuss more on children malnutrition, we have in the studio our very own Moji Makonjuala. She is a media consultant who is also the Executive Director, International Society of Media in Public Health. It's really good to have you on Panorama
today. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Ma. So we're talking about children malnutrition, and from what we've seen, it's a huge number. Children in Nigeria, we have over 2.5 children malnourished. So what's your take on that?
Well, my take on that is that it's unacceptable because, everything shows that we are a country at peace, and we shouldn't be talking about our children that are severely malnourished. Beyond that, according to the nutritionists and the experts, they say we have everything that the nutrients they need in our foods and all that we as a people must be alive to. But we find out that a lot of mothers don't know what to give, and you'll be shocked. And a lot of times people say, oh, it only happens at the rural areas. No, it is not just at the rural areas, it's happening everywhere. People don't know what to give the children. A lot of times over the years there has been advocacy about putting the child, to exclusive breastfeeding for the first six months of life. But some mothers don't do that, don't give water. The child does not need water. They give water, they give other things which should just be exclusive. Nature has been so kind to make that all the children, all what the babies would need within the first 6 months of life. But moving away from there, like you saw in that report, there are lots of children out there that are malnourished. And a recent report that came out, I think about 72 hours ago, also says that it's not just a Nigerian problem, as it were. It's a global issue, because while you see the stunted growth, children, you also see those that are so wasted in terms of how lean they have become, but you see also some obese children. So it's a two-edged sword, that we need really to do something about.
So what do you think we should do about that?
Well, I think the media has an important role to play, if you ask me, and that's why we knocked on the door of the media for a start. We can be we are the eyes and the ears of the society. People believe in us, in what we do, so we can amplify the voices of the medical experts and nutritionists to tell the world that indeed we have a crisis. But beyond that, the remedy for which treatment is given is still things that are imported into the country. So we need for our food industries to wake up to the call to action, for them to be able to manufacture things that our children, the remedies that the children would need, because we can't continually import. We must be able to look back into what we can do as a nation, because come to think of it, even the donors that are there to assist us, the purses are getting leaner. So we must look in country, and this is what we are advocating. And the politicians, the policymakers must also do this, because the right nutrition for the child is the start, and that's what makes that child wholesome, like you are today. If your mother didn't feed you well, you probably wouldn't be same for me. So we are saying here that it must be deliberate government policy that looks after the nutrition of the child.
Okay, back then when we were kids, we have, there are a lot of things that our parents do make themselves. I think mothers of nowadays don't really have the idea of, mixing this and this to give a balanced diet for a child. So what would you say is the synergy now that your organization is putting in place to checkmate all those things?
Yes, we are actually a consortium. There are other friendly people like us who also are working with us. We have, medical practitioners who are working with us, so that where they stop, that's where we start. But I think more than anything else, a woman who is educated, there's the probability that she would feed her child well. A woman who goes to the facility at the primary level when she's pregnant, I'm sure would be given all the enlightenment she needs for her to, for what to give the child when the child is born. Even the mothers themselves, what you need to eat so that you can bring forth a healthy child, and then going forward and giving that child what the child needs. So we need several things, and the media is in the center of this to give information out. We need for our women to be educated. We need more funding for child's health, which encompasses nutrition. We need also policies that includes deliberate policies, government policies that includes the health of the child. We're looking at the primary health care under one roof. There should be a component that speaks specifically to the needs of our children in this country.
So lastly, what would your take be on the fact for talking about the budgeting and financing?
That's it, my dear. We're speaking now to health financing. Health financing will be all-encompassing, not just in terms of facilities and infrastructure, but it's deliberate in the sense that we'll be able to treat what we call severe malnutrition, looking inwards, and making it a deliberate policy thing that whatever state you go, wherever there's a public health or institute or facility, even that malnourished child, if a quick intervention comes in, can be treated, and if it's not treated, can be prevented. But we are saying that prevention is better than cure, because it's more expensive to treat.
It's true. Thank you very much. It's really good having you on Panorama. Yes, we have been speaking with Mojima Controller. She is a media consultant and also an executive director, International Society of Media in Public Health. This is a news panorama. We now pause for some messages. The news continues shortly. Please stay with us. Good to have you back on Panorama. The impact of the mass media and the society in this century has engaged stakeholders on how the conventional media can channel its energy against misleading information which may undermine human development. Usman Aliu says this was the message at the annual lecture of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria.
It's effective, fast and simple. Thus the new media in the developing world. But mischief minds manipulate with information capable of undermining peace and human development, especially in a society like Nigeria with diverse cultures, ethnicity and creed. The federal government takes it as a necessity to educate the Nigerian public about the dangers of news that are not real. Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information and Culture, has been championing this cause.
The UK Parliament is so concerned that they are even contemplating, putting a levy on social media news. And I know many countries in the world, like Zambia and Co, that have actually legislated against the social media. But we continue to say in Nigeria, we will not do that, but we will continue to appeal to the conscience of the media. Now, the 2019 elections, as they are coming, we should be prepared for more fake news.
Again, a forum like this one seeks to highlight the role of conventional media in tackling fake news and hate speech, which contents circulate in the social media platforms.
We cannot allow ourselves to be infiltrated by fake news and hate speech, because that is not what journalism is being built on.
No, we manage information. So no fake news come into us. And we are online too, so we check and balance.
We need to begin to develop a critical culture among our children and among our students, a culture that equips them to detect falsehood and to respond appropriately.
Although fake news and hate speech are not new, but the effect in this era of globalization is more devastating than before, and so the stakeholders suggest more efforts on public enlightenment, especially with 2019 general election approaching. In Abuja, Usman Aliu, NTA News.
Many thanks, Usman. The presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, has identified investment in critical institutions that will ensure credible elections as prerequisite to good governance and promoting electoral integrity. Aliu Tuku reports.
Election is a critical feature of democracy, and for people to exercise their franchise, the process should be devoid of imposition, inducement, molestation or violence. To achieve this in the next coming elections, J.K. Gazama Court organized a lecture to discuss challenges and come up with sustainable solutions that will ensure credible elections, enhance political accountability in governance. Apart from creating awareness on the need for citizens to shun violence and manipulation by desperate politicians, discussants at the lecture also pointed out the need to allow institutions perform their duties without interference.
Electoral democracy, electoral integrity is important, but we could have electoral integrity and yet have bad governance.
Everyone has a role to play, and to a large extent we are far from the El Dorado when it comes to electoral integrity in this country.
With the theme Electoral Integrity, the hallmark of Nigeria's constitutional democracy, the lecture is the 11th in its series. In Abuja, Aliu Tukur, NTA News.
And now to sports. Maiden FCT Golf Association Kitty Tournament ends as African sports ministers brainstorm on productivity in Abuja. Kene Ima Abudike has details on sports update. Thank you, Kene, for the sports package. And with that, we end this edition of Panorama. Good afternoon.